Hello everyone, this is Pankaj Bhauryal and I welcome you all to my YouTube channel, the PM Tutorials. Today I'll be teaching you the first chapter of your first flight textbook of 10th standard, that is A Letter to God, and it's written by G.L Fuentes. Okay, so what I've done, I've divided this chapter into 4 sections: introduction, key points, chapter explanation, and summary. Okay, so I request you all to kindly watch the video completely for the better understanding. Okay, and I'll be going through each and every word. I'll be explaining all the I'll be explaining the whole chapter in totality, so stay tuned. Okay, so before beginning the chapter, the main chapter, I'll give a short introduction about it. Okay, the story A Letter to God by G.L Fuentes revolves around the idea of having unquestionable belief in something. The writer has tried to depict the faith of a poor and simple farmer in God. Okay, so here this person on whom the chapter is based, okay, he's the protagonist. Okay, he's the protagonist. His name is Lencho. Okay, and he's farmer. He is a poor and simple farmer. And what kind of faith he has in God? He has unquestionable faith in God. Okay, so what kind of faith he has in God? He has unquestionable faith in God. Okay, now what is this? Why is he having unquestionable faith in God? What is the problem that he faces? All these things we'll see in the chapter itself. Okay, okay. Then comes the key points. Okay, before beginning the chapter, after the introduction comes the key points. I'll read out all the points for you. Lencho was a farmer and had a field of ripe corn. Okay, so here what kind of farm he has? He has a field of ripe corn. He needed a downpour to make his harvest good. Okay, but the rain turned into hailstones. He expected good rain, but that rain turned into hailstones, which destroyed his whole crop of corn. Okay, he had nothing to eat, so he decided to seek help from God. Okay, when he doesn't see any way, he remembers the Almighty. He wrote a letter to God demanding 100 pesos. I have already highlighted, but then too, once again, I'm highlighting it. 100 pesos. The post office employees made fun of him when they came to know, but the postmaster decided to help him. This is another important character in this chapter, that is the postmaster. What he does, that we'll see. He collected 70 pesos from his own effort. What amount? 70 pesos. But Lencho was angry to receive only 70 pesos. He asked for 100, but he received only 70. He wrote another letter to God demanding rest of the money. He also requested to send the money through another means, because what he believed was that post office employees were a bunch of crooks. They were the cheats. So the amount that was collected by the postmaster, okay, that amount was 70 pesos. But Lencho demanded 100 pesos. When he received 70 pesos, he was very sure that God had sent the amount to him. But he was equally sad because he thought that the remaining 30 pesos have been stolen by the employees of the post office. So he blames them. He names them as crooks. Crooks means the criminals, cheats. Okay. Now we'll see the chapter in depth. I hope you understood the overall idea of this chapter. Now here I'm going to start the chapter itself, chapter explanation. Okay, so I'll read out. The house, the only in the entire valley, sat on the crest. See, now all the difficult words are there. I have highlighted them. Okay, what you have to do, you have to just note down all these difficult words along with the meanings. Okay, the house, the only one in the entire valley, sat on the crest. Whose house are we discussing about? We are discussing about the house of Lencho. Okay, sat on the crest, that is top of the hill, top of a hill, of a low hill. From this height, one could see the river and the field of ripe corn, dotted with the flowers that always promised a good harvest. Dotted means full of. Okay, so the ripe corn was full of the flowers that always promised a good harvest. The only thing the earth needed was a downpour, that is the heavy rain, okay, or at least a shower or a mild rain. Okay, throughout the morning, Lencho, who knew his fields intimately, means closely, had done nothing else but see the sky towards northeast. Okay, so what is written? What is given here? Lencho is the name of the farmer. He lived on the only house that was there on the top of a hill. Hill was low heighted. Okay, and from that hill, a river and a ready to harvest cornfield of Lencho. Obviously, they both were visible. The field belonged to Lencho, and he had the utmost confidence that the harvest would reap great profits. Why? Because every year the rains were good and his fields produced good harvest. His field produced good harvest and he was always in profit. This year also he expected the same. But what was needed to gain great profits? Rainfall, which was awaited. Okay, and in that hope, in the hope of rainfall, good rain, he spent an entire morning gazing at the sky in the northeast direction, from where a drizzle was expected to shower on his field. So what does he do? He expects the good rain, and in that expectation, he looks towards the sky, towards the northeast direction, and he expected good rains to come. Okay, so what you all need to do, you all need to follow what I'm speaking, and along with that, you all need to also note down the difficult words and their meaning. Moving toward the next paragraph, guys. Now we are really going to get some water woman. Now who's this woman? This woman is probably Lencho's wife. Okay, now we are really going to get some water. Some water here means rain, obviously. The woman who was preparing supper means food, replied, "Yes, God willing." Okay, the older boys were working in the field while the smaller ones were playing near the house until the woman called to them, "Come for the dinner." Okay, so who are these older and younger boys? These boys are children of Lencho. It was during the meal that, just as Lencho had predicted, big drops of rain began to fall. In the northeast, huge mountains of clouds could be seen approaching. Approaching means coming near. The air was fresh and sweet. The man went out for no reason than to have the pleasure of feeling the rain on his body. And when he returned, he exclaimed. What did he exclaim? "These aren't raindrops falling from the sky. These are the new coins. The big drops are 10-cent pieces and the little ones are 5-cent pieces." Okay, so what happens here? The man looking at the sky, he was very much confident. So he tells his wife that they are going to have a good shower of rain. Okay, to which the lady replies by saying, "God willing." Means she also felt the same. Their children were working in the field, elder children, and the younger children were playing near the house. Okay, a routine what they used to do. Then everyone were called by Lencho's wife. for food. During that time, it started raining. Okay, and everyone became really happy. The wind was pleasant. Clouds could be seen approaching from the northeast sky. Lencho goes out to do what? He goes out of the house to take pleasure in the feeling the droplets on his body, on his open chest. He refers to the drizzle as coins. Why? Now this is very important, guys. Now here, what does Lencho do? What does Lencho do? He compares the raindrops falling from the sky with the new coins. Why does he compare? Because if the field has good amount of rain, they'll be in profit, they'll sell it, and they'll earn a good amount of money out of that. So he's comparing the raindrops with the new coins. Okay, and the big drops is comparing with 10-cent coins, and the little ones is comparing with the 5-cent coins. Okay, so these are all, once again I'm highlighting these words for your reference. Okay, I hope you all are understanding what I'm teaching. Now let's move to the next paragraph. Okay. With a satisfied expression, he regarded the field of ripe corn with its flowers, draped in a curtain of rain. Draped means covered in the curtain of rain, means it started raining. But suddenly, a strong wind began to blow, and along with the rain, very large hailstones, means a pellet of rain. Hailstones, if I'll tell in Hindi we call hailstone as ole. Ole means small pieces of ice. Okay, began to fall. These truly did resemble means to have a similar appearance of new silver coins. Okay, so the hailstones, they were similar to the silver coins because they both shone. The boys, revealing themselves to the rain, ran out to collect the frozen pearls. Okay, so this is what happened later on. They all were satisfied. It started raining, but gradually what happened? The rain transformed itself into hailstones. And what kind of hailstones? Large hailstones. This was really, really bad for the harvest, really bad for the field, because the hailstones, they have a tendency to destroy the crops completely. And the similar thing was about to happen, which was very much unfortunate for Lencho. Okay, so what happens next? What happens next? It's really getting bad now, exclaimed the man. Who? Lencho, obviously. Exclaimed the man. It's really getting worse now. I hope it passes quickly. It didn't pass quickly for an hour. So, hailstones were there for an hour. The hail rained on the house, the garden, the hillside, the cornfield, on the whole valley. The field was white as if covered with salt. Not a leaf remained on the trees. So the leaves also fell. They also became the victim of hailstones. The corn was totally destroyed. Okay, because it rained for an hour, guys. The flowers were gone from the plants. Lencho's soul was filled with sadness. Obviously, he'll be really sad. When the storm had passed, he stood in the middle of the field and said to his sons, what did he say? A plague of locusts would have left more than this. This is the new term, students. Kindly note this. A plague of locusts means insects which fly in big groups and destroy crops. Now, if they would have come, they would have left more than what was destroyed by hailstones. So here Lencho is comparing plague of locusts with the hailstones. Hailstones have completely destroyed the crops, and he remarks that plague of locusts would have destroyed less in comparison to the hailstones. The hail has left nothing. This year we'll have no corn. Okay. So this was his feeling. He was worried, and his worried soul, what did he say? That this year we'll have no corn. That night was a sorrowful one. All our work for nothing. Means they had really worked hard, and what did they get? They got nothing in return. There's no one who can help us. We'll all go hungry this year. So this was the sadness, okay, that they were suffering through. And what was their concern? That year they'll all go hungry. So this was a major concern that was, major concern that they had. Okay. Moving ahead, students. But in the hearts of all who lived in that solitary, lonely house in the middle of the valley, there was a single hope: help from God. Okay. As I discussed previously, what hope did Lencho had? He had the hope of help from God. So this was the hope with him. Don't be so upset. Even though this seems like a total loss, his whole harvest was destroyed. Remember that no one dies of hunger. That's what they say. No one dies of hunger. Okay. So this was the inner feeling that was there with him, that no one dies of hunger. And he had the hope in God. Okay. And he wanted to seek help from God. So what does he do? All through the night, Lencho thought only of his one hope. The hope was help from God, whose eyes, as he had been instructed, see everything, even what is deep in one's conscience. Students, this may be a new word for most of you. Conscience. It's pronounced as conscience. Okay. What is conscience? Conscience is an inner sense of right and wrong. Okay. Now, whatever we do, and before doing any particular activity, our heart tells us whether we should do it or not, whether it's right or wrong. Now, that particular feeling is what we call conscience. Now, speaking about Lencho's capability, Lencho was an ox of a man, means he was a very hardworking farmer. He used to work like an animal in the fields, but still he knew how to write. Okay, means here what is told by the author, that Lencho is an illiterate person. Okay, he's probably an illiterate person, but still he knew how to write. Okay, so what does he do? The next Sunday, following Sunday means the next Sunday at daybreak, he began to write a letter which he himself would carry to town and place in the mail. Now, who does he write a letter to? As the chapter name, as you have read the chapter's name, it is a letter to God. So he writes a letter to God. Okay, he writes a letter to God. It was nothing less than a letter to God. So what does he do the next Sunday? Next Sunday, he writes a letter to God, and he himself goes to the post office to place that letter in the mail, in the letterbox. Okay. Now, moving ahead, what happens next? What he wrote in the letter? This is very interesting. He writes that, God, if you don't help me, my family and I will go hungry this year. And what does he demands? He demands that I need 100 pesos. Now, what is pesos? Now, in India, we have rupees, okay, but in Latin American countries means there are many countries in there, included in Latin America, Mexico, Argentina, Brazil, okay, Spain. Now, all these countries are Latin American countries. So this chapter is based on in any of the Latin American countries where pesos is followed. Okay, so what he demands? He demands 100 pesos. He demands 100 pesos from God. Okay, in order to sow my field again and to live until the crop comes. Because the hailstorm. Now, why is this dot 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 given here? Dot 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 means he must have narrated the whole event, the whole incident. Because the hailstorm had destroyed my farm completely. I have nothing. We all will go hungry this year. Okay, the complete narration he gives to God in that particular letter. Now look at his faith in God, students. Now it is very obvious. Even a 10-year or 15-year-old kid knows that letter can't be written to God. Okay, even if we address a letter to God, God is not going to actually read that letter. Means letter is not going to go to him. God doesn't have any address, students. Okay, but look at his utmost faith in God. He writes a letter and he mentions, what does he mention? He mentions all these things in his letter. Okay, so his faith in God was unquestionable. He wrote to God on the envelope, put the letter inside, okay, still troubled, and went to town. Why troubled? He was not sure whether God is going to reply him or not. At the post office, he placed a stamp on the letter and dropped it into the mailbox. Okay, dropped it into the mailbox. Now the letter went to the post office. One of the employees, who was a postman and also helped at the post office, went to his boss laughing heartily and showed him the letter to God. Never in his career as a postman had he known that address. Now, who distributes the letter? Postmen, they distribute the letter. Okay. Now, if letter is addressed to God, where will the postman take that? Where will the postman give that letter to, and to whom? To what address? So he starts laughing. Okay, never in his career postman had sent such a letter, which was addressed to God. Postmaster was a fat. Okay, students, I want you all to note the adjectives used for postmaster here. Fat, amiable, pleasant, okay, friendly and pleasant fellow. These are the adjectives used for the postmaster. Also broke out laughing. He also started laughing, but almost immediately he turned serious and tapping the letter on his desk commented, "What faith!" Okay, many of you also, students, must be wondering what a great faith Lencho had in God. Similarly, the similar expression was of the postmaster also. What faith! I wish I had the faith of the man who wrote this letter. So what was his wish? He wished to have the faith that the man who wrote this letter, Lencho, had in God. Okay, so now we shall move ahead, students. Okay, but almost immediately turned serious and tapping the letter on his desk commented, "What faith! I wish I had the faith of the man who wrote this letter." Starting up a correspondence. Correspondence means communication by exchanging letter with someone. Okay, now that is correspondence with God. So what does he do next? So in order not to shake the writer's faith in God, the postmaster came up with an idea. What is his idea? His idea was to answer the letter. Now God is not actually going to answer the letter physically. But what is his idea? His idea was to answer the letter on behalf of God, okay, where Lencho would not come to know that The postmaster has replied to the letter, but he wanted Lencho to actually feel that the letter had been sent, that the letter was sent by God. But when he opened it, it was evident that to his answer, he needed something more than goodwill, ink and paper. Now, when he opened the letter, when the postmaster opened the letter, he came to know that letter didn't only want goodwill, ink and paper. The letter also needed something else. What was that something else? It was 100 pesos that was demanded by Lencho. But he stuck to his resolution. He asked for money from his employees. He himself gave a part of his salary, and several friends of his were grateful, obliged to give him something for an act of charity. So decided to collect 100 pesos. Okay. It was impossible for him to gather together the 100 pesos. So he was able to send the farmer only a little more than half. Little more than half means 100 pesos was the demand of Lencho. Means little more than 50 pesos. What was that exact amount? That we'll study. That will come to know later on. He put the money in the envelope addressed to Lencho. Okay. And with it a letter containing only a single word as a signature, God. Means letter was sent by God. The following Sunday, Lencho came a bit earlier than usual to ask if there was a letter for him. It was the postman himself who handed the letter to him, while the postmaster, experiencing the contentment, satisfaction of a man who has performed great deed, looked on from his office. Lencho showed not the slightest surprise because he had utmost and unquestionable faith in God. He counted the money. God could not have made a mistake, nor could he have denied Lencho what he had requested. Now, students, Lencho here, with the help of his employees and friends, collected total of 70 pesos. Okay. When Lencho came to know this, he was really saddened by the fact. Okay. Immediately, Lencho went up to the window to ask for paper and ink. On the public writing table, he started to write with much wrinkling of his brow. I mean, what does this wrinkling of brow mean? It means when a person thinks with a lot of pressure, okay, then this is used, wrinkling of a brow, when he thinks a lot, caused by the effort he had to make to express his ideas. When he finished, he went to the window to buy a stamp which he licked and then affixed to the envelope with a blow of his fist, means very hard, with a hard press of his fist. The moment the letter fell into the mailbox, Lencho obviously went. The postmaster went to open it. Now, see, students, let me give a brief idea about what exactly happened. Postmaster and his employees and friends collected total 70 pesos and put it in that letter. Okay. Lencho came. When he opened the letter, he was very sure that God had given the reply, but the amount was only 70 pesos. But he demanded for 100 pesos. Okay. So now what does he do? He writes something in the letter. Okay. Dropped it into the mailbox, goes out of the post office, and then the postmaster comes and opens the letter. What was written will shock all of you. God, of the money that I had asked for, only 70 pesos. Only 70 pesos reached me. Send me the rest, since I need it very much. Rest means 30 pesos. But don't send it to me through the mail, because the post office employees are a bunch of crooks, cheats. Now see, this is the very funny ending, students. Now what happens here? God actually doesn't in reality send the money and replies to the letter. The post office people, they reply, they decide to contribute, and they gather the amount of 70 pesos in totality. But Lencho is very sad. What he thinks that God had actually sent 100 pesos to him, but the employees of the post office, they had stolen the remaining 30 pesos. Okay, so in the end, it's really sad that Lencho feels that the post office people who were actually helping him had stolen the money. But what fact still remains here? The fact that still remains here is the faith that Lencho had in God. Okay, so this is the end of the beautiful chapter. Okay, so my video doesn't end here, students. There's still something for you all. Okay, now after going to the chapter in depth, line by line, I'll read the summary for all of you in case you all did not understand. A Letter to God is a story of extreme faith in God, Who had this faith? Lencho. Extreme faith in God. The writer had tried to depict the faith of a poor and simple farmer in God. Lencho was an honest and hardworking farmer. He was poor and simple. So these are the adjectives used for Lencho. Once there was a hailstorm. It destroyed his crop completely. Lencho had great faith in God. He asked to God to send him money. The postmaster saw the letter. He decided to help Lencho. He collected some money. What was just some money? Some money was 70 pesos. He put it inside the envelope. Lencho came to the post office to check his mail. The post office people gave him the envelope. Lencho opened the envelope. He took out the money and counted it. It was 70 pesos only. He found that it was less than he had asked for. He wrote another letter to God. He asked God to send him the rest of the money, but he wanted God not to send the money through the mail. Why? Because he considered them a bunch of crooks who had stolen 30 pesos, okay, from the 100 pesos sent by God. So there is a very humorous ending to this lovely chapter. Okay, but what fact remains in the end? The fact remains that Lencho had unquestionable and utmost faith in God. His faith in God never ends, even by the end of the chapter. That's it, students. I hope you understood every bit of what I have tried to teach today. I'll be coming up with such lovely videos on a regular basis from now on. If you have any doubt in this video, do let me know through your comments. If you like this effort of mine, be kind enough to like, share and subscribe this channel, the PM Tutorials. Okay guys, this is Pankaj Bhauryal signing off. Until my next video, bye, take care and God bless.